I'm Jake,
I'm Tom.
and we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today, guys, we're going to do the new album from the band Low. Come On, that's the name of the album. And Low is a band that kind of popularized a genre that, you know, they don't agree with this name, which is fine, but I actually think it's a pretty applicable name. It's called slowcore, and really it's just a lot of nice indie music that's slowed down, focuses on cathartic emotional releases, and it's just slow tempo, big dynamics. And actually what's cool is in some of the research I was doing, you know, Low started in the early 90s, and they had a lot of problems with like people talking during their shows, which, by the way, if you're ever at a show and you're talking while someone's playing, go to hell.
They did that during Menomina. People were talking during Menomina. I was like, what the hell are you guys doing?
It's annoying. Yeah. It's disrespectful, so just, for us, just don't do it. Be cool people. Mm-hmm. But Low had that problem, so what they did instead is they turned their amps down real low, and most people just play louder, but they actually turned it down, you know, softer, so it made people listen to what they were doing, and then which just accentuated when they made, you know, the really loud, you know, climaxes. It made it really loud and more powerful. So that's kind of how the style was born, which I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. And this album, Come On, does kind of fall into that category. There's a lot of those songs here. And there's the predominant thing that I noticed about this right off the bat, Tom, is that there's two singers, there's two vocalists, there's a male and a female, and they've both been in it since the beginning, and you know, the female, who I think is actually the drummer, I really love her vocals. And two of the tracks on this album, it's You See Everything, track 2, and Especially Me, track 5, where the female vocals are predominant, are by far my favorite tracks, and we'll probably go down to some of my favorite tracks this year, because I just love them that much. And they do a lot of harmonization, and that's one characteristic of Low's sound that has been consistent over the years, that a lot of people have given them props for, and I'm certainly going to do the same. Now, Tom, what was your experience with Come On?
Well, it did take me a while to get into, just because it is so slow, so quiet with those big builds. Like, and if you don't go into it expecting that, it'll probably take you a couple extra listens to really understand, because I didn't know anything about this band before the first time I listened to it, and I was like, wow, this is, you know, really low key. You know, appropriately, no pun intended. But really, I mean,
Come on.
God damn it. You really have to understand that going into this album, that it's going to be a slow listen. It might take you a while to attach to, just because things happen over such a large period of time, larger than what it would take most bands to do this. But that's the whole point.
And to add to that point, I also think that this album is, you have to think about the context in which you're listening to it. Yeah. I tried listening to this at headphones in the morning at work, just didn't do it for me. You know, I'm sitting there drinking coffee, going crazy, typing stuff, adding up numbers, debits, credits, blah, blah, blah. No! That is not Low. At night, you know, maybe relaxing with the sun setting, or at night, you know, just through real speakers. I mean, it was much more of a rewarding listen. But anyways, keep going. Sorry.
You're absolutely right, and I don't actually have too much more to say. I mean, if you like that indie sound and you're okay with the slow-moving music, and that's the kind of stuff that moves you, that gets you going, and you listen to it in the right context, you'll really like this. But for that reason, I think that this will only touch a very narrow audience, you know, and from what I understand, that's still kind of the way they've always been, but I'm glad that they've been successful at it and been able to keep at it, because I think that for what this is, it's very good.
Right. It's well done, well constructed, well written, and they provide a good variety. There's a couple tracks in there that focus on just the vocal presentation, and I like that. There's also a couple tracks that do, there's several, I'd say the majority of the tracks, probably like 60 to 70% of them, where they you know, do some sort of loud expansion of the sound, to where it slowly builds, and it's just this cathartic release that really gets me. I like that emotional appeal. Now, there's two tracks on here that I had a little bit of the problem with, and while I like the general sound, the aesthetic feel, and how the songs are written, the songs themselves don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. Those tracks are Try to Sleep and Nightingale, tracks 1 and 8 respectively, and I feel like those songs, as I said, they establish themselves well, and I like them, but then they just kind of continue on for 4 to 5 minutes without really accomplishing much or adding to the album. I feel like you could, you know, in context of the album providing mood or you know, variety, you could accomplish the same thing in a shorter shorter amount of time, and I feel like they're just a little rough around the edges. I also feel like this album starts off very strong, and then right after about track 6 or 7 starts cooling off just a little bit. Not huge, but enough for me to note that I would want to see that kind of cleaned up in the future for me to really fall in love with this album. Also, the closer, Something's Turning Over, I feel like is kind of poppy, and it's different from the rest of it. This album has very little of a pop kind of aura to it, but that last song does. And while I don't think it's a clear misfit on the album, it is for a closer. To me, a closer has to wrap things up for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like adding, the poppy side of things at the end of the album, I don't know how I feel about that. Yet I like the exit with optimism kind of thing, but I don't know how I would reorder that. I really am just critiquing without proposing a solution, which I'm not a fan of, but what can you do? I'm feeling like this is a good album. It's not great. It's not something that I'm going to go, wow, this is one of the better albums of 2011, but it was solid. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I think that if you haven't heard of Low before, this is a great album to get into, and if you like moody, more emotional music that's focused on the presentation and songwriting, you'll like this. I'm going 75.
You're going 71.
Yeah. What did you guys think about Come On? Leave us a comment, please, please. We love talking about music. That's what we're all about. And the purpose of Velocities in Music, as we're trying to establish to you guys, is to get people thinking and talking about music, and that's how you do that is by starting a conversation. And we have multiple venues in which we will talk to you about music. We can do it. We'll email you. You can email us, find our email at our website, and leave comments there too. And you can also leave comments on YouTube at youtube.com/velocitiesmusic. But where we're always on is Facebook and Twitter. And so follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We're there all the time talking to people about music. And we would love to chat with you guys about your thoughts on Low and Come On. So please do that. Also check out our Tumblr blog with Ian and his written reviews and posts at vimtv.tumblr.com. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
All you guys out there trying to act like Al Green,